Now, despite many stories of success in the sector, it remains incredibly difficult to gain access to consumer markets. We're now, of course, joined by Maude Modise, who's the General Manager for Enterprise and Supply Development at the Shoprite Group. And she's here to help us understand how exactly high potential young farmers and agripreneurs can gain easier access to buyers that actually understand their needs. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Maude Modise.
Good morning, everyone, and I must say that I'm very happy to be here. I don't know how after Dr. Nadia's bashing of retail, I don't know if we're willing to still have this conversation. Um, there was a video I would have liked you guys to play. If you can just play that first.
People are what they eat, farmers are what they grow. And for us, it's very important that we play our part in conserving the environment. And that's what makes our business unique.
We're very proud and excited to be a female-owned business, particularly in farming and agriculture, which is a very male-dominated industry. We employ mostly youth, and majority of our employees are also female because female empowerment was very important to us.
It all started when Noni and I started looking at the amount of food waste that there actually is in South Africa. And we then looked back at our skill set. And Noni came from a food nutrition background, and I came from a marketing background. But we figured we can fuse this together to be able to address the problem.
Shoprite gave us opportunity to have constant supply, which means constant work for our workers on the farm and in the pack house. We then were also able to open a high care for the value-added product, which was a new area for us, which means we were also able to upskill workers in the pack house doing new things.
We're very grateful to Shoprite for giving us the access to market. That has been able to grow our business to the heights that we are, and we want to grow more.
Ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, do you know that Shoprite is a food retailer? So when we had the opportunity to work with micro farmers in our space and help develop them and help assist them to do business in retail, we took the opportunity. If you guys can go to the next slide, please. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what we do within our division, and then I'll go into how you can get access to market point by point into retail or into our retail space. So what we try and facilitate in the ESD environment is SMME trade assistance. So from that point of view, is anyone who's got a product that they want to sell on our shelves, they go through us, especially a small business. We give them the necessary information, the vetting, and all of that. Then you get access to market from our shelves. From a localization point of view, especially from a farming background, one of the projects that we take a lot of pride in that we facilitated is the business was actually importing roses from Kenya. And from that aspect, you can imagine the logistics from getting those roses from Kenya to our distribution centers, to the store, to the customer's house. That actually places a very short lifespan of the product on the client's at the client's hands. So basically what we facilitated was how can we find rose farmers in South Africa that can take up all of that we're importing and make sure that we're producing it locally, get it to our stores on time so that a customer can actually have a longer shelf life of the product. And I'm proud to you that we've actually facilitated 2 of those transactions so far, and we're looking to actually facilitate more of those conversations as to what is it that we're importing that we can procure in South Africa and actually get it through to the store, enhancing the whole process of fresh, making sure that we deliver a quality product to the customer, and actually making sure that we're playing our role in empowering small farmers while we're localizing everything that we're doing within our space. So from a farming point of view, those are one of the projects that we're actually embarking on. From a micro farmer assistance point of view, a lot of farmers come to our space and say, I've got 5 or 6 or 7 hectares of land I've been planting, I want to supply to Shoprite. And our learnings over the past year is that the compliance issue, nobody really tells you about. And I'll tell you about it now. It's not as easy as planting and then getting it to our DCs and then resupplying to you. So I'll go into a bit of detail and give you a bit of more context around it. But also, if you stand back as a retailer, we've only got a certain amount of a piece of the pie. The bottle, you can only fill the bottle this much. with spinach, right? I've only got so many stores that I can have capacity for. I can only service so many farmers of spinach. Unfortunately, for me to make space for you as a spinach supplier, as a green bean supplier, or whatever type of commodity, I will have to take away from somebody to give to you. That's the give and take that we normally struggle with. And I think maybe if we put that out there more often, then you will realize that we have a lot more farmers into our space that are small that we're trying to grow, but also how do you facilitate farmers that are outside of your market that you're trying to bring in? I'll give you a bit of context around that as well. So rural development, we're working on a lot of projects in the rural areas and the townships around that. I won't go into detail on that. And we facilitate a lot of the strategic investments around what is there a need for that we currently don't have in our space, where we go and find somebody who will actually facilitate that and invest and make sure that we meet the supply and demand. If we go to the next slide or 2 slides on, where we talk about the current micro farmers that are existing in our space, how we define a micro farmer in our space is anybody who's doing less than R1 million with us. So currently we have 96 of those, and I mean our farming database is actually quite broad. We have 96 of those. The challenge that you sit with is the ones that are already in your system, how do you help them grow beyond that mark, but also bringing new ones who want access to your system and help them grow into the retail space and obviously get them to be commercial farmers. One of the things that we actually pride ourselves with as a retailer is if you're a farmer within our space, we'll give you a growth plan, and that will make sure that you are assisted in terms of planning your growth plan. You've got certainty of volume, and you'll have a more focused approach as to, I know if I plant this, Shoprite will take it at the end of whatever season or according to how the agreement is. What we also do is we know that cash flow is quite a big problem. I see Mr. Kampi is gone. Cash flow is quite a big problem in our space. And how do we facilitate working capital in your space? We make sure that we pay you within 7 days after we've received your stock, and where we can, and I mean this is not a business as usual, where we can, there's a farmer who's out there where we're going to from a store, we can come back with your goods and backhaul it to our DCs and make sure that the process goes through from there. I don't know if you get the concept of backhauling, but also all our farmers go through our DCs. And I mean, there was a critique now that says you plant your stock in Limpopo, you have to transport it all the way to another place, and then it comes back for you to sell it in other stores. I mean, those are the conversations we will try and facilitate. I took note of that, and hopefully in a year or two, I'll come back and say, you know, this is an initiative that we formed and we're working on it, and hopefully it'll be a success. But we took note of it. But we've got 6 DCs that we actually have in our key hubs and areas. So it won't be that you're taking your stock from Limpopo, you bring it to Joburg, and then you're transporting it back. So yeah, if I move over to the next slide or 2 slides on as to what to consider for you to supply into retail. The requirements are always there, and you always have to tick the boxes. I mean, your business profile, your proof of turnover, your BEE certificate, and all of that. But one thing that a lot of the farmers in our space don't actually get is gap audit compliance. And obviously, if you've got a pack house, a GMP verification. Those are the key most things that you need in order for you to supply into retail. And that is because from a legal perspective, we are not allowed to put anything on our shelves that is not food safety vetted. So from that perspective, you need that. There's a whole lot of young farmers that contact us day in, day out that don't know that. And it becomes it feels like the information is not freely accessible. It feels like every time you pass a hurdle, somebody comes to you and says, but you don't have this, but you don't have that. So here's the information ready available for you. There's also proof of consistency of supply. The minister made mention of that now to say, Minister, I want funding, but you have not planted anything. You have nothing to show for me. What helps is there's a lot of markets out there where you can sell your stock. As long as you can show proof that you can consistently supply us, we will definitely try and work with you. The one thing that we pride ourselves in is that Freshmark works directly with each and every one of our farmers. So we will go out to your farm, vet it, give you training, make sure that you meet all the requirements, and try and work with you in order for you to actually get to the quality of product that we need. From the challenges that I've seen in a farming space, and I mean, one of our colleagues, he usually gives farmers advice and all of that. And I said, but why don't we give you money and you start a farm because you know so much about it? He's like, even if you give me 5 million with the tractors, the trails, everything, that is very high risk, and that is not what I'm willing to do. And I think when I came in here today, I realized that a lot of you are actually very brave. I respect a lot of you. Because if somebody can say, no, I don't want that, no, thank you, it's too risky, it's stressful, I really commend you guys, and I have a lot of respect for you. Bearing in mind, like the minister alluded to earlier, I mean, what we look at as well is in the area that you're farming, what is our experience with hail, storm, climate changes? If there is, if your area is prone to that, we tend to not want to work a lot in that area, because also we've got customers that want products on our shelves. That is the unfortunate part. It is balancing that part and obviously supporting the farmer, right? So we look at that, we work with you on that, and we obviously raise these concerns, but we try and work around it. We look at growth potential as well. Do you have adequate land in order for you to grow so that you can actually go into a bigger commercial farmer? Do you have a packing facility? Do you have enough human capital and resources or access to those so that we can help you grow gradually within our business? But also the other thing is, what is your ability to supply throughout the season? If in a certain area we know that we can get, not potatoes, they're not a great example, tomatoes for 6 months on end, then we must make sure that we are able to get the same amount of supply from you. If not, what are we doing to work towards it? But also product specifications. Your tomato looks so good, it's big, it's great, but it does not meet the product specification of the client on the other side. That's the one thing that we also need to balance out. Your watermelons and all your stuff that you're planting, they look so good, they look so fresh, but what are the specifications from the other side? Those are the things that you need to consider. What they don't also tell you is that we focus on industry related pricing. That is the one big hindrance, is if the market is selling it at 5 rand and you're selling it at 7. Can you, oh yeah, there. So we also need to balance that out. But also just in general, housekeeping, compatible B2B systems, logistics in order for you to transport your fresh produce in a very sustainable manner in order for us to actually get it at the right temperature, freshness, and quality. What ideas that I can bring to the fore in the table is, how do we as farmers use technology to enable us to have a point of difference in our product? There's hydroponics. We're working with Wakanda Foods as well with the rooftop farmings that the minister was speaking about. I know they're working on a project in mainland. But how do we bring in, I mean, there was a concept that somebody came to us in with these mushrooms in containers where they just plant them, they close them up, and they'll grow. Whether it doesn't get affected by the season. So how do we look at those and bring that into our space? And I know young people focus a lot on technology, new ways of farming, urban farming. We love that. We want to work with that. Nobody really tells you about how to conduct business in retail. You've got your product, you've made your sale, but nobody really tells you about the rebates, the packaging that you need to buy. Make sure you know all about that in order for you to price your goods correctly. Make sure that you're able to actually make a profit out of this when you go into retail. One other thing that works for other farmers is pooling together. Resources are not as easily as available to everyone. Pulling together, using resources in order to decrease your input costs makes a world of a difference. Like the minister said, you can do one thing alone, but together you can achieve more. That is one thing that I've learned, that a farmer with a pack house, or a farmer where you can go and buy your input costs together in order for you to achieve some buying capacity or ability to negotiate, that works, and infrastructure sharing. So I hope my presentation in the little bit of time that I have, because I have to rush somewhere else, I'm sorry that I won't be able to take questions, but I hope that my presentation has given one or two of you a bit of perspective as to how to do business in retail as a farmer, and it has given you some sort of information that you needed. Thank you very much.